Welcome to our gaming channel. Here, we bring you the latest and greatest in the world of gaming. We cover a variety of games, from classic titles to the latest releases, and everything in between. In this video, we are showing the top 10 newest horror games. So let's get started. Scorn. Scorn's grim aesthetic of mutilated body parts and fleshy, dingy corridors make this one of the best horror games we've played this year. Though it lacks in jump specs, it more than makes up for in gory goodness, and it's easy to see the inspiration of H.R. Geiger and Zizblaw Beksinski work in Scorn's skeletal structures, blood-veined flooring, and mechanisms made of appendages. Scorn uses gore to create moments of unease instead of shock, as you move through a non-linear path solving puzzles in almost near silence. Other than the odd squelch, there are plenty of abominations to fight, or hide from along the way, but like a quiet scream, Scorn becomes increasingly more unhinged as you start to unearth the secrets to its isolated world. The Devil in Me. This time a group of journalists receives a mysterious call inviting them to a replica of a serial killer's home dubbed Murder Castle, a hotel where our journalists can spend the night. What could go wrong? It turns out a lot, as our guests settle in for some RR. Things quickly take a turn for the worst. And now they must survive the night, evading deadly traps and making horrifying choices along the way. It's easy to trip up by mispressing, but even one bad decision could change the fate of our characters. Though if you want to avoid killing anyone, our guide on how to save everyone in The Devil in Me has you covered. Phasmophobia. Phasmophobia has climbed rapidly in popularity since its early access release, growing beyond a cult following and showing no signs of slowing down. So what makes it so good? Although Phasmophobia is primarily a horror game, you could look at it as a cult-up detective game, as you and up to 3 other investigators explore a haunted location in an effort to deduce what type of ghost is spooking out the premises before reporting back. It requires teamwork, your best detective hat, and steady nerves to navigate the dark, tight corridors and eerily quiet rooms. Dead by Daylight. Asymmetric multiplayer horror games don't come better than Dead by Daylight. You play as either a lone killer or as one of 4 human survivors, who are desperate to escape the map. The survivors can't do much to fight back, but by working as a team they can misdirect, bait, and frustrate the killer while preparing for their escape. It's a delightfully simple format that plays host to some of the best scares in gaming, and because it's all player-driven you can never really predict what's around the corner. Metro Exodus. Metro Exodus is a number of games packed into one inviting post-apocalyptic slice of Russia. It's a story-focused family drama as much as it is a Wolfenstein-esque, heavy metal-scored PS. However, there are plenty of spine-tingling horror game sequences creeping en route to the climactic Metro Exodus ending. Yet, as we pointed out in our Metro Exodus PC review, this is a game that is at its most terrifying when it changes the rules. The early stages of the game teach you to extinguish the light and master the shadows. Then, in the spider-infested bunkers beneath the Caspian Sea, it becomes your weapon. Your arachnid foes are fatally vulnerable to light, so they skulk about in any dimly lit crevice they can find. As their disgusting, hairy legs scrabble madly against the walls, it becomes apparent that, in Metro Exodus, you can never let your guard down. Resident Evil Village. It never gets any easier for Resident Evil Village's main protagonist, Ethan Winters. We first meet Ethan in Resident Evil 7, when his long-lost wife mysteriously makes contact, and he sets out to find her, leading him to a creepy bio cabin and a nasty run-in with the unsavory residents, the Baker family. Luckily, Chris Redfield swoops in to save Ethan, and his life regains some normality, if not for long. Ethan's world is once again turned upside down in Resident Evil 8. This time he's stuck in an isolated village inhabited by monsters and feral villagers. Resident Evil Village may be remembered for its alluring antagonist, the tall lady, but this first-person survival game soon lets loose the scares. The Evil Within 2. The best horror games keep you up at night. By that metric, The Evil Within 2 screams itself to the top. You will certainly struggle to get to sleep after you have seen a pile of severed bodies skitter across the floor and assemble themselves into the form of a pale, fleshy mass of limbs with several faces, all of them laughing, and a buzz-saw in place of a right arm. The evil within 2 is packed with skin-crawling set pieces like this, each one as inventive as the last. But Tenga Gameworks' impeccable sequel is much more than a list of the best moments in horror games. Slaying bosses and exploring spooky mansions are separated by open-world sections, where you never know what is waiting for you. Some much-needed shotgun shells or a devious specter that will continue to haunt you for the remainder of your playthrough. Alien Isolation. Alien Isolation is a horror game about being stuck on a space station with a spoiler big scary alien, which, thanks to some devious ion level design, is more terrifying than it ever has any right to be. As we discovered while writing our Alien Isolation review, this horror game is effectively a first-person hiding simulator. Your monstrous stalker can't be beaten, shot, or bashed into submission. The best horror games make you feel utterly powerless, and in Alien Isolation it is your wits, your knack for crawling under desks and into lockers, and a variety of distractions that will save you from the hulking Shajarian horror, a deadly creature who can appear at any moment, unscripted, and without warning. What more could you ask for from a horror game antagonist? The Quarry. Supermassive has not one but to stand out horror games this year. Whereas the Dark Pictures games are relatively small in scale, the Quarry attempts to be more like Until Dawn, offering a longer story for players to experience. Boasting an ensemble cast of unlucky 20-somethings who find themselves stranded in a forest full of dangerous threats, the Quarry is an effective horror game that is even more entertaining when played with a friend. Players can go through the entire experience in co-op, controlling specific characters that they choose at the beginning in an attempt to keep everyone alive by the time the credits roll. Darkwood. Sound does not get enough credit in horror games, and if you ever need a reminder of how powerful a simple scratching noise or a distant knock can be, seek out one of the best indie games to delve into the horror genre of Darkwood. This is a top-down horror game about a mysterious man cooking mushrooms in a house, right in the middle of a plague-infested forest. And that's it for today's gaming video. Thank you so much for joining me on this adventure. I hope you had as much fun watching as I did playing. Until next time, keep on gaming, and I'll see you in the next video.